Hello my friends, story time with Mrs. Beth again. I hope you're enjoying your day. I'm enjoying mine today. I have a funny book to read. Well, I think most of you will think it's funny. It's kind of silly, but we'll say it's funny. Are you ready for it? Walter, the Farting Dog. There's a few books that I have of his, so I'm going to read them, but today I'm going to read one. And I can't do a shout out to anybody because I don't want to name people who fart. Anyway, but dogs' farts do smell, I want to tell you that. But anyway, it is a funny story. Let's read it together. Walter the Farting Dog. Betty and Billy brought Walter home from the dog pound. Nobody wanted him, said Billy. But we love him, said Betty. Well, he smells awful, said their mother. I think you better give him a bath. Mother walked in and said, he still smells awful. And that's when they got the first clue. The tall bubbles in the water. He's probably just a little nervous, said Mom, hopefully. His stomach must be upset. But Walter's stomach wasn't upset. Walter's stomach was fine. He felt perfectly normal. He just farted a lot. He farted when he bathed. He did it when he played with Betty and Billy. He did it when he walked around the house. He did it in the dining room. He did it in the kitchen. And he even farted in his sleep. Oh boy. That dog farts morning, noon, and night, said Father. He can't help it, Daddy, said Betty and Billy. They didn't mind Walter's farts. So, what if he farts? Billy said to Betty when they were alone in their room with Walter. Betty agreed. Walter agreed too. He sat there, looked innocently around, farting. Take him to the vet, said Father. Farting, said the vet, or rectal flatulence, as we say in the medical profession, and prescribed the dog a change in his diet. He needs to eat different. Well, they gave Walter every kind of dog food, and he farted still. So they tried him on cat food, and they gave him hot dogs, hamburgers, lettuce, tomatoes, sandwiches. They gave him fried chicken. They gave him rabbit food, and they even made him a vegetarian dish. No matter what that dog eats, he turns it into farts, roared Dad. Walter got the blame for everybody else's farts too. If Uncle Irv let out a slip, he just went and stood near Walter. Then all he had to say was, Walter, and everyone would look at poor Walter thinking he's the one that made the smell. He has to go back to the pound, said Father. No, Daddy, please, begged Betty and Billy. Don't send Walter away. He goes tomorrow, said Father. They pleaded. Please, no, Dad, and Walter farted. It was all over. That night, Betty and Billy cried in their beds, and Walter looked at them unhappily. Oh, Walter, said Betty, you've got to stop farting. Because Father is going to send you back to the pound tomorrow, said Billy. Walter knew how serious the situation was. He'd never see Betty and Billy again. He resolved to hold in his farts forever. When Betty and Billy fell asleep, He walked down to the kitchen to see if there was anything around to eat. He managed to open the cupboard door with his nose, and he found the 25-pound bag of low fart dog biscuits the vet had prescribed for him, which had made him fart more. Oh dear. Even though he knew they made him fart more, he couldn't resist because they tasted good. He ate the entire bag. Oh no, very tasty, Walter said to himself. Uh-oh. And then he went and lay down on the sofa. A gigantic gas bubble began to build inside him. Oh, this is going to be trouble, he said to himself. Oh dear, he was so nervous. He was afraid of what might happen if he let it go. He thought maybe the house would explode, so he kept his fart in. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was torture. But he had resolved never to fart again. His future depended on it. So as he lay there with his tail wrapped tightly between his legs, he heard a noise at the window. He watched it slowly open. A pair of burglars came through. They dropped silently into the kitchen. "Watch out for the dog," said one of the burglars. "Yeah, he won't bite," said the other. "He's a wimp." Walter might have bitten them, except he was so filled with gas he couldn't move. They tied a rag around his snout so he couldn't bark. "Okay," whispered the first burglar. "Let's clear this place out. Let's get everything." Well, they took everything they could get their hands on. Walter wanted to stop them, but he was having unbearable gas pains. He rolled on his back and waved his paws in the air. He gnashed his teeth. "We've got it all," said the second burglar. "Let's go." Then, that's when Walter let it fly. It was the worst fart of his life. It made a tremendous noise and shot him across the room. A hideous cloud filled the air. The burglars clutched their throats, unable to breathe. With tears in their eyes, they raced for the window. They tried to grab their bag with all the valuables in it, but their arms were too weak. "Let's get out of here," they said. They jumped out the window and ran up the block, choking and gasping for air. Still blinded by Walter's attack, they stepped into the headlights of an approaching police car. "Hold it right there," said the policeman. When Father and Mother came down in the morning, they found the open window, and they saw the bag with their valuables in it, and Walter was sitting beside it. He still had the rag tied around his snout. You'd have to say he looked heroic. He looked like a hero. "He saved the silverware," cried Mom. "He saved the DVD," cried Father. "Good dog, Walter. You're our dog. Even if you do fart all the time, you can stay." And so, the family learned to live with Walter, the hero dog. And that's the end of our tale. Oh boy, that dog, Walter. Hey you, he did stink, and he farts all the time. Oh my goodness. But he did save his family from losing all their stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe it made you laugh. Walter the farting dog. Silly book. See you next time.